нашего времени Манис Фридман в прямом эфире отвечает на вопросы наших слушателей. Вы услышите мнение самой мудрой книги человечества – Библии, о самых сложных проблемах, стоящих перед современным миром. Присылайте ваши вопросы заранее на наш имейл info@rusa.fm или во время передачи по СМС 347 460 08 77.
Добрый день всем, кто сейчас настроен на радио РУСА. Thank God it's Tuesday. Всех уже официально можно поздравить с Новым годом, как у нас говорят, Агут-Яр. То есть Йом-Кипур вчера мы уже минул. Вот этот вот такой самый святой день в году. И сегодня мы уже, можно сказать, вошли полностью в новый 5784 год. Да, вот такой большой год у нас наступил со дня сотворения мира, и, к сожалению, мы должны начать его с довольно сложной темой, потому что эту тему у нас попросили многие из наших слушателей, тема, которая сейчас коснулась очень многих, и это тема «Как быть, как себя вести, когда в семье есть члены с нетрадиционной сексуальной ориентацией». И вот такой вопрос у нас вдруг стал очень часто поступать, и люди попросили такую передачу. Именно такую передачу мы сегодня, вот в этот первый день такой, после таких серьезных праздников, вот с таким мы сегодня начнем нашу передачу «Thank God it's Tuesday» самым великим раввином нашего времени, раввином Манисом Фридманом, которого я сразу же сейчас подключаю. Hello, Rabbi Friedman. Thank God it's Tuesday. Wonderful to have you with us. A good year. And as I just told our listeners, we have a tough show today, a tough show that has been asked by a lot of our listeners, and not just listeners, just people that I meet. It seems like a lot of people are now have this as part of their life, something in their families. They have family members with non-traditional sexual orientation. It seems to be very common nowadays. I don't know if it's something that's became more common or just became more out there, more known. I don't know if it's because of the acceptance of the society that it started to become, that we encounter it more often, or it's just something that is happening more often in our day and age. But a lot of people who have members in their family, their children, and not just their children, who are encountering such relationships in their family are having questions about how to deal with it, because the society obviously is telling us to be accepting. Acceptance is the big word when it comes to non-traditional sexual orientation these days. I'm sorry, and we're asked to be accepting. Is this something that we should be, or I mean, there are a lot of questions that people are asking, and I guess let's just start, and I'll try to relay their feelings and the questions that I'm being asked, and I'm being asked to relate to you, and see if we can make things a little bit clearer, easier for people to comprehend, understand, and deal with.
It's interesting you said non-sexual. I think that's becoming a problem too.
Yeah.
Of all the different sexual orientations, non-sexual is becoming quite popular. And I don't think anybody's happy with that. So we'll tolerate it, of course. We tolerate everything. But where are we going? What's happening? Well, how should parents feel if their child says, I am non-sexual? You should say, oh, that's great. Whatever works for you. Or just say, what? That's terrible. That's not the way it should be. So we have this clash between modern values versus traditional values. The modern value is tolerate everything. Everything is acceptable. Whatever people feel, whatever people think, whatever people are doing, it's acceptable, which is a great virtue, but it doesn't have a direction or a purpose. So where are we going? The question is not, can we tolerate? The question is, are we a healthy society? Are we headed for a healthier future? Or are we falling apart? Are we becoming totally dysfunctional? And I don't think anybody likes that. So whatever the sexual feelings, crisis, or whatever you want to call it, the optimal is still the traditional sexual relationship between a husband and a wife who have children together naturally and raise them like a family. It's still the best option. And no matter how tolerant you want to be of everything else, you can't change the facts. The facts are a good, healthy family in the good old-fashioned way is still the best. Doesn't always work. We know that. But love doesn't always work. Tolerance doesn't always work. Nothing always works. We still have to have a basic definition of life, of family, of children, and of the future. So, what will the future bring? I'm quite confident the future is going to be people will settle down, people will find their way, and of all the explorations and of all the circumstances, conditions, traumas, whatever it is, eventually we will all be healthy and we will have families like the good old-fashioned way, because it's still the best. So anyone who's going through a sexual challenge or a sexual dysphoria, whatever form it's taking, what can we do to get back to the good old-fashioned lifestyle that brought us this far and will continue to lead us into the future? I'm not sure what there is to do. I don't have the answers. There's all sorts of therapies, all sorts of conversations, all sorts of value considerations. But this is not how it's going to remain. This is a learning, adjusting period where we realize that there are all sorts of variations on sexual pleasure and sexual activity, sexual conduct. Yes, we know they were always there. But God has his preferred way, and we try to live up to God's expectation. So I'm confident about the future. In the meantime, we're having some painful issues. And yes, we have to be sensitive, and we have to be tolerant, and we have to be helpful. Not just sit back and let whatever happens happen. We got to try to be helpful.
Rabbi Fridman, helpful how?
Well, in some cases, it's a medical issue, it's a psychological issue, it's a trauma issue. Got to be helpful in there, in whatever we can do about that. In some cases, it's just a fad. It's just become popular. People are confused. We don't trust the old system. We don't know what the new system is going to bring. So there's a need for re-education. We've never really taught anything about the male-female relationship. We just took it for granted and thought it was a lot of fun. But it's a lot more than that. So whatever we can do, medically, ethically, morally, we got to help. It's nice to be tolerant, and it's necessary, but it's not the end. We got to find some solutions to where families can be healthy again, to where a man and a woman can both be fathers and mothers of their own children naturally in a healthy fashion. Why not? That's still the best and the optimal.
Rabbi Fridman,
to make the argument that every alternative is just as good as the original, it's not just as good. It's sad. Like, for example, we all know from the Torah that there are all forms, many forms of sexual expression. All of them are sexual pleasure. We're told this in the Torah right from the beginning, that there is pleasure in heterosexual, there's pleasure in homosexual, there's pleasure in incestual, there's pleasure in every form of possible sexual activity. This is not shocking, it's not new. What the Torah tells us is that we have freedom of choice. We can express our sexuality in whatever way we choose. So God says, if you're choosing, how about doing it my way? So we said, fine, do it your way. As long as we have an outlet for our sexuality, we don't need every outlet. We're not gluttons. So every person by nature is bisexual or trisexual or quadrosexual. We have so many ways we can find sexual pleasure. God says if it's all the same to you, choose this one. We should be free to choose. A person who says, no, I can't, I am limited to one way, the only way I can, that's not healthy. What happened to your free choice? So our sexual expression should not be forced on us by conditions, by genetics, by I don't know what it is. But why don't we have the option, the freedom? The freedom of choice. That is the best, most healthy condition. Of course you can be bisexual. Doesn't take any great talent. The question is, which is the holiest, the most productive, the healthiest, or whatever you want to call it? What's the preferred way of all the possible ways? So saying that I find pleasure in a heterosexual relationship doesn't mean I can't find pleasure in a homosexual relationship. And if I find pleasure in the homosexual, doesn't mean I can't find pleasure in the heterosexual. And if I'm attracted only to someone else's wife, doesn't mean I can't find pleasure from my own wife. We have freedom. We have choices. So God didn't create us with a one single path of sexuality. He created us with many paths and asked us to choose the one that He prefers, which is the same with food. We can enjoy every kind of food. Frog legs, I hear, are very delicious. God says, if it's all the same to you, how about if you stick to the cow and the sheep, and don't go for the pig, and don't go for the lobsters? And I'm fine. I don't care. As long as I have some good food to eat, I'm not going to be a glutton and demand every kind of food and every kind of pleasure. So where is our freedom of choice? What's happening to us? What are all these seemingly restrictive, compulsive, can't help it, this is the way I am, I have to do it this way? What happened to freedom of choice? And why doesn't everybody have freedom of choice? So we will find ways of being free to do the right thing and not be a slave or a victim of our passions. That would be very healthy.
Rabbi Friedman, a lot of what you said, usually there's this counter-argument from the society that we are free to express ourselves the way we feel of expressing ourselves, and that is the outcome of why people are choosing what they're choosing. And so it's actually, I love what you just said, because it completely counters everything that society is saying, that if you feel like, then this is what you have to follow, because this is your true passion, and you have to be free to make yourself happy.
If that were true, that would be okay. But then there's the argument, I can't help it. I can't do it any other way. What's with the gender dysphoria? I can't. I have to become a boy. I have to become a... You have to? That doesn't sound good. You're not choosing. You're saying you're forced and that you have no choice. Oh, what is that? That is not good news. We're losing our freedom of choice. I'm sure there are cases where, yes, an illness takes away your freedom of choice. But they're not calling it an illness. They're calling it a preference. Well, if it's the only way you can function, it's not a preference. So there's a lot of confusion.
What about the fact that we've been told for as long as I can remember that everybody has to be accepting of the choices that people are making, including the family members? And I think this is why people have started to call in and ask to do this particular topic, because everybody was taught to accept and they couldn't. And I'm talking about parents, very particular parents. They can't accept. And in a way, of course, they feel bad. They feel like maybe they're doing something wrong. Maybe there's something wrong with them because they cannot accept their child as is. And one particular question was asked, what do I do on family holidays when the whole family gets together and their children and grandchildren, and then there's this alternative couple that wants to join in because it's their family, they're married to each other, non-traditional way, but the parents don't want to. On one hand, they want them there because they're family, because it's a child. On the other hand, they don't want to show that they're accepting of this lifestyle and they're okay with it. So how should they behave themselves in this particular instance?
Well, it's hard to tell people what to do about their strongest feelings. It's unfair, to say the least, that the couple, their feelings must be respected, whereas the parents' feelings get no respect whatsoever. That hypocrisy is irritating. Yes, we have to be tolerant of the couple. The couple also have to be tolerant of the parents. No, doesn't it work both ways? So the parents are condemned as being intolerant. How intolerant is that? They have very strong feelings, they have very strong beliefs, and you're just asking them to ignore it all? I know one young man, Jewish guy, decided to marry a non-Jewish woman. The parents are devastated. They're devastated. This never happened in their family. They are shocked. They are embarrassed. They don't know what to do with themselves. And they tried to talk to the boy. Anyway, he decided they're going to get married, and he demands that the parents come to the wedding and that they smile. That's called tolerant. But to top it off, to make it really painful, the parents ask the boy, maybe your girlfriend would consider converting. That would be acceptable to everybody. And this guy says to his parents, she mentioned it to her parents, but they're not comfortable with the idea, so that's out. How should the parents feel? Oh, her parents are not comfortable, so it's out. The insensitivity is shocking. So if parents have feelings or beliefs or convictions, then they're just monsters. Now, come on. If we're going to be tolerant, it's got to be tolerance both ways. If there was a little tolerance both ways, people would work it out. But there's tolerance only from one direction. People can do whatever they want and then demand tolerance. It's not nice. The other thing is, parents are horrified because it all seems to be so hopeless, permanent, chronic. Somebody says, I think I'm gay. Oh, that's it for the rest of your life? It's all over? Calm down. There are gay feelings in every person. We're all bisexual. Think about it for a minute. So the snap decisions, the claim that I can't be any other way, and then saying it's my preference, we're so confused. And the confusion hurts more than the sexual preference. We don't know what to make of it. We don't know what's happening, including the people who are finding all these other sexual outlets. They're confused too. They contradict themselves up and down. So it's a very painful time. It will pass. This is not permanent. And we will be healthy in the end. And healthy means having the freedom to choose. Moral means, if you're choosing, choose God's way. That would make it a moral choice. But having the ability to choose, that's just healthy.
Rabbi Fridman, but in this actually very particular case, what would you say to the parents regarding this holidays? Should they invite their children who are married non-traditionally with the rest of the family? Because the family is split on that as well. Some people say, yes, absolutely, their family, we want them there. And others are like, makes us uncomfortable. And the parents are in a really, really tough spot. They feel uncomfortable with this marriage as well. But at the same time, I mean, what would you suggest for them?
I think if you've made it very clear that you can't agree or you can't accept their lifestyle and yet invite them for meals, that's perfect. We have to teach, we have to share our feelings, our beliefs, and our convictions. We don't have to punish. And that is happening way too often. You decide that you believe in something and you go around punishing everybody who doesn't agree with you. What is this violence? I asked this girl who was rebelling, making her mother very unhappy. I said, I understand you want to go do your own thing, but why do you hate your mother? She says, I don't hate my mother. I said, what you're doing is killing her. She says, well, too bad. I said, you don't call that hate? What do you mean, too bad? This indifference, it has to be part of the narcissistic syndrome. My way and you, too bad. That's very painful. It's very painful. Children who find themselves gay or dysphoria, whatever it is that why can't you still be respectful to your parents? Why can't you still be a mensch? You're causing a lot of pain and you don't care? It's wrong of your parents to be in pain? They don't get to have an opinion and a feeling? It's not right. It's not right. So, if both parent and child were a little more considerate of each other, they could work it out. Like any friends, like any good family, you work it out. But when you set down absolute demands, inflexible, okay, so what do you expect? Should the parents invite the child? Yes, that would be wonderful. But the child has to be a mensch too. For example, I invite people to my house. I don't care what their beliefs are, as long as they don't preach it at the table. Don't come to my house and preach Christianity. But the fact that you're a Christian, so what? Come, let's have a good meal. But if you're going to go preaching, no, you're not invited. I'm not giving you a platform. So if a gay couple want to come, do they have to be blatant about it? Do they have to be sexual in front of the children? Of course not. But it's very unreasonable. Of course, there are parents who are unreasonable, and there are children who are unreasonable. I don't know why one gets away with it and the other doesn't. So, for example, if the parents would say, "Come, and yes, bring your partner, but call him a partner. Don't call him a marriage or in front of the kids." Oh no, we have to be upfront about it. We have to look. If you're militant, then you're not welcome. And when did you become militant? If you have a lifestyle that suits you and that you think is a good lifestyle, fine. Don't be obnoxious about it. And nobody comes to your table and says, I'm heterosexual, and come on. Behave yourself.
Rabbi Fridman, but we do have this societal pressures of being accepting and not judging for sure. So, I mean, we're not supposed to judge, I believe, altogether. That's not our job. But the societal pressures of being accepting, how should we deal with that? Because there are a lot of pressures from that. And I'll say it honestly, I even feel it personally. I mean, God forbid to think that, someone is doing something wrong or being, a little bit even weirded out by it. It makes you feel wrong inside because, to each his own, everybody is supposed to be able to, make their choices, like you said. So how do we deal with the societal pressures?
So again, it depends what you mean by accepting. Accepting the person or accepting their opinion. We have to accept the person. We don't have to accept an opinion. What is this, mind control? So I disagree with people who eat non-kosher food. I still invite them to my table, but they cannot bring a ham sandwich with them. I invite the person, not the ham. So is that intolerant? No, it's my house. So come to my house because I like you. I don't like the ham, so don't bring the ham. So accepting doesn't mean accepting every opinion. That would be insanity. But you accept every person regardless of their opinion. Tolerance means I can disagree with you and still get along with you. But if I must agree with you, what is that? That's worse than communism.
So put the pain aside and be accepting and kind of deal with your own feelings on your own time. Is that?
Well, yeah, you're putting some pain aside, but you're also indulging in pleasure of having your kid at your table. It's not all pain. So enjoy your child, enjoy their company, and disagree with them. Since when is that a crime?
Reverend Fridman, amazing. Thank you so much. Such a tough topic made clear and simple and kind and easy. Only you can do that. We're already all in agreement on that. Thank you so much. I hope this is going to make it a lot easier for a lot of people out there who are experiencing this type of pain. And unfortunately, there are a lot of families out there that are now experiencing this type of relationship. So thank you so much. This was very, very important. And we do have requests for other important topics. They're personal. So I hope we'll be able to continue doing this, in our future programs. Thank you so much for the time.
Should all have good news.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All the best. Till next Tuesday. Ну, а всем, кто нас слушал, огромное спасибо. Продолжайте жить, продолжайте радоваться, продолжайте улыбаться, воспринимать вещи легко, хорошо и просто так, как нас учит этому раввин Маниса Фридман. И, пожалуйста, у него много информации, смотрите на его веб-сайте itsgoodtoknow.org, YouTube-каналы, много книг на Амазоне можно посмотреть, так что желаю всем всего самого хорошего и самого-самого доброго. До следующей недели в передаче Thank God It's Tuesday.
Каждый вторник в 12:10 один из самых известных раввинов нашего времени, Маниса Фридман, в прямом эфире отвечает на вопросы наших слушателей. Вы услышите мнение самой мудрой книги человечества – Библии, о самых сложных проблемах, стоящих перед современным миром. Присылайте ваши вопросы заранее на наш email info@rosa.fm или во время передачи по СМС 340